right. Hello and welcome to Conflict Radio, everybody. Today is September 26, 2024. We're getting closer and closer and closer to Red October as it comes around. We've been warning about it on this channel for about 3-4 years, and we are less than a week away. So make sure that you're ready for that. Let's give a shout out to everybody that's here hanging out. I see Colt Browning, Anna Smith, Robert Bell, Blue Chicken, Top Taz is here, Zach Mandick. Davy Jones Locker, how you doing? And Champa the Fatso, welcome to Conflict Radio, everybody. Today on the show, we've got Lily Nova. Let me scroll over here and get rid of this this overlay. How you doing, Lily?
Hey.
Lily Nova is a UFO and space photographer, contactee, cosmic channeler, author, and public speaker. Her story and UFO footage have been featured on the Travel Channel and mainstream media all over the world, including LA Bible and the Mirror. UFOs began visiting Lily during COVID while out shooting space photography. She began documenting these close encounters with her camera, determined to capture evidence and discover who these visitors were. As her experiences progressed, a communication and relationship developed with these otherworldly beings. They taught her mysteries of the universe, how to initiate contact with them, how to activate her dormant starseed DNA, psychic gifts, and healing abilities. She's joining us today to share a lot of this information with us. Lily, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic today.
It really is great to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us. I do have to give a shout out to everybody who was patient with me on the last episode. Literally on Tuesday, just before I started the show, we got a call from our neighbor's parents who lived about 45 minutes away, and they hadn't heard from our neighbor in a couple of days. He was a very close friend of ours, and they asked us to go down and check on him and see if he was answering the door, if his car was in the parking lot or whatnot. And I had to start the show, and I did, but my wife went down, and we discovered that he had passed, and my wife let me do the show, but I had a feeling something wasn't right during the entire show because she hadn't come back up. So I had a bad feeling about things, and it really affected the show. So I do want to give a shout out to everybody who might have noticed something off about the show. Anyway, moving on. Prayers to his family and friends and every one of us. And I mean, where we're going, I suppose he's just not ready for. I like to tell people that it's easy for us because in our reality, we lost him, but in his reality that he's still living in, he lost all of us. So, good for us, I guess, because, whatever, we're still here. I guess.
My condolences. He's in a better place, I'm sure.
Yeah, I truly believe that. I really do. All right, Lily, I want to talk to you about the multiple timelines, Ascension. I want to talk about chakras and what they actually are. My wife had asked me a question, and I had to be honest with her. She asked me, she said, "Do you believe in the chakras and what they are and all that sort of stuff?" And I told her, like, I had heard of them, but I never really got into it. I don't really know what they are. She said, "Get somebody on." And literally within an hour of her telling me that, I came across you and your stuff and what you're doing. Can you please tell us what are chakras? What are they?
Yeah, so they are these energy centers, and we have a lot of chakras, but there are 7 main ones. They're kind of like, picture them like little galaxies, spiral galaxies. They're kind of like portals. But so we are physical beings, right? We've got like a physical body, but then if you go beyond that, we are energetic beings. So that's kind of like the energy centers are like the basis, and the energy centers, really, it comes down to the energy centers. A lot of times people may experience, issues or trauma, and it can get caught in those energy centers. So there's 7 main ones. Your crown on the top of your head, your third eye, which a lot of people are probably aware of. You've probably heard of the third eye before. Your psychic, your intuition, and then your throat, which is your ability to express yourself, share your authentic voice, communication. It also helps with connection to the higher realms. Your heart, your solar plexus, which is your center for power, confidence, your sacral, which is around your belly button area, and that's kind of like your creative life force, your sexual energy, and then your root is at the base of your spine, and that's your sense of security and safety. So whenever these energy centers become imbalanced, or you may experience trauma, it can get energy stuck. You can even get attachments that throw these off, and it will literally affect all of your life. So it manifests in your reality around you, having like a lack of self-esteem, a lack of confidence, not being able to speak up, not being able to authentically be yourself, feeling very closed off, and not having trust issues. Like all of that goes down at the smaller level to your energy centers.
Okay, so basically, I mean, does this have anything to do with the third eye?
Yeah, so the third eye is one of your 7 main chakras. And it's interesting because the Eastern cultures, they've known about this for a very, very long time. I started kind of studying this a little bit a long time ago. But it was really reinforced whenever I started having contact with extraterrestrials and UFOs. And I was really shocked that one of the first things that an extraterrestrial said to me was that I needed to work on my heart chakra. And they started talking to me about the energy centers and how important they are. So that really reaffirmed and confirmed how important they are. But yes, your third eye is one of them. And that is your intuition. And it's also connected to like your pineal gland, which you can see in all of these ancient cultures. They depict the eye like in ancient Egypt, the eye of Horus, and then the pineal gland. And then a lot of these ancient cultures all around the world depict a pine cone, which is basically represents the pineal gland. That's what it looks like. It looks like a pine cone. So there's all of this ancient, like the ancients were well aware of this. And your third eye is basically like a portal that you can use it to see into other dimensions. You can use it to just perceive other realities and other things going on around us.
Okay. I do see some questions here, guys. Just so everybody knows, we do questions the last 30 minutes of the show. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it, and I'll highlight it and ask it when the time comes. I'm sorry, my cat is totally messing with me. Are you Illyrian? Do you know Illyrians?
Yeah, I am.
Because my cat only messes with me when I'm doing a show, when I'm talking to somebody who's connected to the Illyrians. It just
Yeah.
I don't know why. Seriously, like go back. Everybody knows. Look in the footage that whenever we talk about Lyrians, my cat is all over me. So
That's
we'll talk about that in a little bit, and we do have you coming back on at a later date to talk about some other things too that we're going to try to avoid tonight, because I think we're just going to learn about certain things and talk to you a little bit and get to know you a little. So sorry about my cat. It's kind of
we love
distracting.
the cats. We love the cats.
I know, I do too. I have 4 of them, but they always mess with me when I get the Starseed on. I don't know why. Now, you are a Starseed, correct?
Yes.
Can you explain to us exactly what a Starseed is?
Yeah. Yes, I can. And I want to preface this by saying that my story is a little bit different because I started off, as you read in the bio, as a space photographer. And I wasn't into the whole starseed thing. I had no idea what it was. And then after having contact with these beings from another world over the period of probably like the first like 4, 5, 6 months in, then I discovered that they were my star family and that I was what's known as a starseed. And a starseed is essentially a being, an old soul who does not originate from Earth. You've had life on other planets and other solar systems, maybe even other galaxies. And you've come to Earth. There's this thing called the Starseed Envoy Program, where starseeds, being old souls and having certain kind of like maybe heightened gifts and abilities and having training and usually coming from a way more advanced civilization, agreed to begin reincarnating on Earth to assist with the shift in consciousness. So that's what a starseed is, an old soul that does not originate from Earth.
All right. So how does I always tell my wife she's a starseed. She needs to connect. She's very intuitive. She has intuitive dreams. She'll literally dream something, wake up,
Mhm.
tell me about it, and it'll happen within the next couple weeks. It's amazing. It's quite amazing what she does. Do you think that that's a trait of a starseed, intuition like
Oh,
that?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, often, and this isn't like always, but most of the time, what you see with star seeds is they're usually more intuitive. They usually think a little bit outside of the box. Sometimes they grew up as black sheep. They can be very empathic to where like big crowds of people can be overwhelming to them because they feel
Yeah, yeah.
other people's energy. So they can get overwhelmed by like big crowds um, and yeah, having like prophetic dreams, premonitions, just intuition, a very strong like gut feeling about things is often because you have those heightened gifts and abilities as a starseed. You're just more in tune, so you're a
Okay.
little bit different.
So how what would her first step be to try to connect to, I guess, does she just need to meditate, or like what would she like if
Mhm,
she's watching this right now, what kind of advice would you give her on how to connect to
mhm.
her
Yeah,
starseed family?
yeah. So that's one of my main focuses. So I have a lot of content on my YouTube channel that talks about that. Um, and going into some of the basics, it's about setting your intention. So you set the intention, I would like to make contact with my cosmic family. And I always say, my cosmic family of the highest love and light are the words that I use. It's super powerful. It sounds so simple, but it's so powerful to just state your intention.
Okay.
So I wouldn't
Right.
overlook that. State that intention. You can ask your star family to show you some sort of a sign. And then meditation is going to be fantastic. Definitely. I have tons of meditations and live activations to help you connect with star beings on my channel. Also, maybe stargazing, spending some time out in nature, just getting in kind of a flow state. So you can do that through meditation, through spending 10 minutes looking up, just kind of creating like a routine out of that. But yeah, meditation's gonna you're bound to have some, if you're consistent with it, some incredible contact experiences through meditation.
So meditation's pretty much, I mean, just kind of zoning out. Do you have to be in a certain position?
You don't necessarily have to be in a certain position. I often lay down flat
Uh-huh.
or sit straight up. But you can really do it however. That's going to be the best, especially if you're working on the energy centers, having your spine straight, either laying down or sitting up. But it doesn't have to. You can even get in a meditative state whenever you're taking a walk. Like sometimes I'll get like a telepathic hit or I'll see a ship in the sky whenever I'm just enjoying a walk in nature. So that can be kind of like a meditative practice. Your mind's just kind of calm. But also guided meditations are great. Yeah, just kind of getting in a state where the mind chatter slows down. It doesn't have to be completely gone. Some people think, that they're not meditating because, or it's hard to meditate because they have too much chatter. Uh, if you have a thought, just kind of let it pass and you can focus on like a guided meditation would really help with that. But yeah, just kind of getting centered and allow whatever comes up to come up.
Alright, so you kinda have to be obviously in silence, not distracted, that sort of
Yeah.
thing, not have any kind, turn the TV off, right? Like, just kinda
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna help because there's so many things going on around us internally and in other dimensions at all times that we aren't tuned into because we are distracted with like the TV or, other people and all of that. So if you just kind of like get kind of in your own quiet space, which you can do through taking a walk in nature or doing a guided meditation or taking a bubble bath or stargazing by yourself for 10 minutes, then you kind of quiet enough and you're centered enough to be able to perceive these other things going on.
yeah. So where were you the first time you had received contact from from somebody else?
Yeah,
Like, where you could actually hear them or see what like, did they try to talk to you telepathically, I'd imagine?
so the first one that I saw, it was actually at my house in the suburbs. Uh, I went outside. It was really late at night, almost 2 o'clock in the morning. I stepped out on my front porch and I looked up at the sky and I immediately locked eyes on a hovering light ship. And that was the first ship I ever saw. And that happened in November 2020. And an orange light appeared at the end of my street that drew my attention. That was strange. And then I felt kind of like almost like electrical feeling. Like I realized how dead quiet it was outside. It's the middle of the night. There's nobody around. And I just got this very strange sensation, almost like time stopped or time slowed down. And then I look back over because I hear some wind rustling, and a second craft had appeared, but this one was much closer, and it was in the shape of like a diamond, and it had red and blue green lights around it, and it was a few houses down from me, up in the sky, not like super high up, like just like a bit above the house, and it went up, down, side to side very, very quickly because I wasn't sure what I was seeing, and then it started coming straight to me. And then it disappeared above my head. That was my first experience, and that was really groundbreaking and paradigm shifting. That was one of my closest encounters with the craft. It was very, very close. And shortly after that, they just started popping up left and right. I just started seeing UFOs everywhere. I wasn't necessarily getting a telepathic communication at first. But I did start shortly after, like a kind of like a friendship began to develop. Like I felt a really strong connection. And so I set out to document these craft that I was seeing on camera because I was like, holy smokes, aliens are real and they're here. Everybody needs to know about this. What the heck? Because that changes everything.
Yeah, it most certainly does. And your story actually gives hope to a lot of people because I mean, this really all started for you back in 2020. It's not that long ago. It's only 4 years, and it seems like you've come so far in that time and have done so much for yourself in that time that it should give hope to a lot of people that, hey, all you have to do is get started and to try to implement these things, and it won't be long, and you'll be right there, right there, doing everything that you wish to do. It doesn't take that long at all, does it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's right. That's a part of that's a big part of what my purpose and mission is with this, is teaching other people the techniques, and that, hey, you can do this too, and this is how you can experience these mind-blowing transformational experiences. Because after making contact with these beings, they taught me many different practices and techniques for uh, activating gifts and abilities that I never knew were possible. Seeing things like remote viewing would be an example, energy healing. I've been able, just as an example, real quick, this lady I did a session on, a reading, plus I did kind of like a meditation session, and I'm like channeling those frequencies. She contacted me like the next day or a few days later, and she said she had chronic pain for the past like 12 years. And she said for the first time in her life, she was pain-free after that session.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that's remarkable. That's remarkable.
So you can
So,
do things like that, and you can learn how to do it. It just takes consistency and implementing the certain techniques and making contact with your star family, which if you're watching this, you most likely have a star family. Then they can help you activate that also.
yeah, it's remarkable that I try to do some, and I guess I hope to do a lot more of things that I don't. You know what I mean? Like as far as trying to uh clean my center and meditate more and that sort of thing. But I've been doing a lot of just trying to meditate at night, and I've been sleeping holding crystals.
Yeah.
Like I have crystals that I actually try to sleep holding. And if anybody watched the show with Mr. Rodriguez,
Tony.
we did the 20 and back program. Yeah, with Tony, could see if you watch that interview, you could see where he breaks down how when I had my experience in 20 or in 1995, and then I had another experience in 2015, and he literally put it together like, look, you probably did a 20 and back because literally it's 20 years between you had these experiences, and I had never put that together before. And I've been talking to him a lot since that show, and I've been having the strangest dreams. Like, I mean, that I'm actually a soldier fighting in space, and it's so weird. And I'm
Lead
messaging him
through.
about it. He's like, you got to write this stuff down. You got to take a journal. This, that, and other thing. And I'm just like completely mind blown. I'm like, was there something like this? Where you're, it's I remember this, and it's very very strange. So
Mhm.
get with Tony and listen to some of his stuff because he'll wake you up on a lot of things too, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, putting that aside, I want to
Mhm.
talk about the Miami Mall incident a little bit.
Mhm.
You did a remote viewing session where you remote viewed the Miami Mall. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. So it's been a little bit since I've done that, but from what I remember, because I remember it was like a big fuss, a big fuss, and
It was. It was.
yeah, and a lot sometimes with those big fusses, you're like, is it just hoopla or is there something to it? And I didn't think too much. I wasn't reading into it too much, and then I was contacted. Like I just got a really strange feeling, and I was contacted by the star beings, and they said, no, this one's important. You're gonna want to look into it. So I did the remote viewing on it, and I think it's like a 10, 12-minute video, minute long video on my channel. But what I saw really shocked me. There were many, 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 many layers, different layers to the Miami Mall incident. So one of the things uh, I saw like humans, almost like a Stranger Things type deal. If you guys have seen the season of Stranger Things where they're in the mall and they're in the basement of the mall, like opening up portals to another dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was seeing people, on these like humans that were basically messing with portal technology. All right. And then I was seeing like, a portal, an actual portal opening up. And then I saw like negative entities coming through, but then I was also seeing a lot of positive entities, even like angelic beings. And then I saw super soldiers, positive super soldiers, which gets into the whole secret space program deal, who were coming in. And I saw a ETs, Nordic looking ETs, positive Pleiadian looking ETs from a space arc that were like overseeing the whole thing. So what it felt like to me, it was very, very layered. It felt like some negative, we'll say like the cabal or whatever, or people messing, like a CERN type deal, negative people trying to open up portals and allowing entities through. And then there was a positive kind of positive beings overseeing it and stepping in to kind of shut it down is what I was seeing.
So do you think that it was something that these kids were messing around with, that it was something that they accidentally opened, or do you think that maybe there was something going on maybe underneath the mall
I think
that
there was
that was
something going
coming out?
on. Yeah, I think there was something going on underneath. That's what it looked like. I saw kind of like a basement, like with like people almost like in suits. Uh, oh yeah, and I do remember hearing the word Russian. There was some. Uh, I do remember hearing that too. Yeah, there were adults involved in like a secret program messing with
Going
the
on
portal
underneath the
technology.
mall?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
when these beings came out, they obviously got up into the mall somehow, and that's what triggered such an amazing police response. I've never seen anything like it, and I haven't since. I've
yeah,
I've never seen a police response like that before to anything. I don't even think, well, besides 9/11 maybe, but I mean, we'll save that kind of show for another day.
yeah,
But I mean, the police response to just what they say was just a fight at the mall is absolutely ridiculous, and people, I think a lot of people saw right through that there was a lot more going on there than
yeah,
uh, than
yeah.
than we than we've been told.
Mhm.
That's a fascinating story. That mall. Did you see the photo of the being outside the mall by the police cars? Have you seen that photo from the chopper?
I think I might have used part of that on my thumbnail of the video, and it kind of looked like a tall figure, but it was almost kind of like translucent or transparent. It wasn't like super clear, but you could see like a silhouette of a being, if I remember correctly. It's been a little bit, but I think I might have that on my thumbnail of that
Do you
video.
think that was a bad one or a good one?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think they would have let the bad out too far. I think the good ones were coming in very quickly
You
to
think the good
to
ones were
shut it
coming
down.
in to try to round up the bad ones that were coming in?
Yeah, that's what
Like
I was
that sort of
thinking.
thing? Like maybe they were surprised by having this portal open up and, right under the mall or, maybe even above the mall or
So what so these Nordic beings that I saw, positive, Nordic looking beings from this space arc, it looked like they were overseeing the whole thing and they allowed it to happen. They knew that they were messing with this portal technology and they knew what was going to happen, but they allowed it to happen. And then the positive beings stepped in. But I think they allowed it to happen so that it could wake more people up. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, I would imagine it woke a lot of people up because a lot of people were researching what was going on because they all saw the police response was it's just ridiculous for what they said was going on.
Hmm. Yeah, that was crazy. And that was right out of the gate, 2024. Like we started 2024 off with a bang.
Yeah, we did, and it's gonna leave with a bang too. I've noticed a lot here lately. It seems like we're getting like 3 or 4 months worth of news in just a single day. I
Yeah.
mean, things are really picking up speed.
Hmm.
Do you think that we're on a path to ascension, or do you think that as society we're gonna fail?
Uh, so we are on a path to ascension, but I have gotten some very interesting messages having to do with timelines. So if you want, we can talk about that.
Uh-huh.
So I believe there are timelines where we fail. So we're kind of in a fight right now against the negative agenda, you could say, timeline war, because there's time travel going on both sides, and it kind of makes it a bit messy. Um, to continue doing our fighting for disclosure as much as possible and doing our own inner work and helping to shift the consciousness of the planet. Um, and I think our victory is inevitable. It's just how many times do we have to get it right? Like, how many times do we have to do it in order for us to get it right is going to be up to us.
Do you think we're repeating ourselves at this point?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a message a couple weeks ago. So I went to Mount Shasta in July and I was gone for 33 days on this trip. I had crazy, wonderful experiences. And as I was leaving Shasta, suddenly heard telepathically and got this whole download. We've already done 2025 before. And I was like, whoa. And just a couple of weeks ago, I heard telepathically time loop. So from my understanding is, we've kind of had to go back to fix things, but I really feel like we're getting it right this time. Um, yeah,
Well,
so
because
does
we
that
because
answer?
we're remembering it. We're actually remembering it this time, so this is the right one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe so, yeah. And
I
we still have to do our inner work though, and still, hold our light and do everything that we can to continue anchoring in that ascension timeline.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been paying I don't think I've ever paid more close attention to my frequency level lately and trying to stay out of negative to be positive and to be more in a positive frequency. And I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, babe, like you're being negative. Stop doing that. Rise up, you know, get yourself back positive because, this isn't where we want to be. We don't want to be in a negative state of mind. But a lot of it too has to do with the fact that we have a lot of uh, dimensional beings that are literally attached to us
Mhm.
that feed off the negativity. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, and that's been a really big focus for me in my community and what the ETs have been having me focus and teach over the last, especially over the last month or so, really focusing on anchoring in your highest timeline and raising your frequency, manifesting your highest reality, being very, very conscious and aware of that, but also clearing out the negative entities because there are tons of negative entities and they feed off of your addictions, your shame, your anger, your fear. That's literally is their food. And then you get into the whole parasite thing, which we talked a little bit before we started, and over this past week, they're like, you do another parasite cleanse, and everybody needs to be doing parasite cleanses because those parasites, they feed off of that too. And they're kind of like attachments in themselves, and they also can dictate your thoughts and behavior and can keep you in kind of like negative loops, perpetuating that, feeding addictive or impulsive behaviors that keep you in a lower frequency state. So
So
that's super important right now.
yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
No, I completely agree with you. And a lot of it has to do, if you can avoid the negativity, I mean, they'll just go away. They'll realize they're not getting anything from you. And if you go to shopping at Walmart or something, you'll walk by somebody who has more for them to eat. They'll leave you and go to them. So if you
Mhm.
stay positive, especially when you're out in public or in a large crowd, stay positive and show them like you're not a good place to be. Go
Mhm.
go go somewhere else. What's going to happen to the people on this planet who are negative all the time and who are letting these parasites feast on them constantly, and is something going to happen to them when we ascend? And
Mhm.
I mean, do we just automatically bring those people with us, or is the timeline going to split in a way where the negative people will continue living on a negative earth, but the positive people will move on to a positive earth, and the timeline actually splits, and the two sides go their separate ways? Is that possible?
I think, that's a really good question, but I feel strongly that it's gonna be the one ascending timeline. The one ascending, and I think everything else is collapsing.
So we've gotta
So,
bring all the negative people with us.
well, a lot of people are, how do I put this? Well, a lot of people will not like tons and tons of people like all at once, but there are certain people who are like leaving the planet. But also the ETs have shown me, so there's a few different things that go in with this. So the ETs have shown me recently that there's also this like device, this technology that is beginning to send out frequencies that is also
Mhm.
helping to clear the negative entities and attachments, and helping to kind of dissolve the 3D matrix. So that's going to help out a lot of the really negative people. It might bring it to the surface. A lot of it's bubbling up to the surface right now. So it might get messy for a second, but there's going to be frequencies and energies that are hitting the earth that are going to help those people and us in general to ascend. So we're going to be getting some help, some backup for that. Also, the solar system and Earth is going into a place in space
Yeah,
that
yeah.
literally cannot house that type of negativity. So it's gonna be leaving.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the Mayan calendar, I believe. Like, they literally predicted in 2012 that we were crossing into a more lighter area of space where the whole consciousness and everything was going to change.
Mhm.
I believe that's what the calendar was for. It's
Yeah,
kind of
there's
a
so much. Yeah.
countdown to the entire solar system moving into an area of space where a lot more is light. Now, at the same time that this is happening to Earth, are there other inhabited planets that are moving from the light into the darkness that the light people need to leave, and that planet is now gonna go dark and negative?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think so. I think our so they've taught me that what happens here isn't just affecting Earth, but it's going to be affecting the whole galaxy and universe, really. And the whole universe actually is going to be raising up in consciousness. So I think it's going to be
What, the
a
entire
positive.
universe?
Yeah,
I
is
mean, that's like
raising up.
galaxy after galaxy after galaxy. That's a big area.
Yeah, yeah. That's my understanding that it's not just Earth, it's going to be helping to be eradicate. And there are other there's systems like the Orion system is a system of duality. So I'm not sure what's going to be going on there. Maybe they'll be the negative ones will be going back, there, and that works in their system because they have um those rules and regulations are there, and they can like do life that way there, but they can't come over here and enslave us because we are ascending, and we're not taking that anymore. So we're being liberated. But from my understanding, what's happening here is also helping to eradicate because like the trafficking thing is not just on Earth. That's just like with Tony Rodriguez in the SSP. He's basically being trafficked in that. And a lot of people who are taken into these programs and taken into space and put on these other planets for labor. That's been happening all over. So, from my understanding, like it's going to be liberated throughout our solar system and hopefully other star systems too. But I don't know all the details on that. But I do know that it's not just about Earth, but it's going to be affecting in a positive way more than Earth.
Yeah, yeah.
At least our Milky Way galaxy.
So let me ask you this, because I was listening to somebody as I was investigating the chakras, and they're telling me that these parasites attach to the chakras, and once you get them off, you have to cleanse the chakras from the damage that they've done to the chakra systems. Uh, how would one go about getting a parasite off of yourself? And then what would you have to do, I guess, in a real quick way, what would you have to do to try to cleanse the chakra from their residue, so to speak?
Yeah. So you could have somebody who is experienced in that assist you with that, but you want to do somebody that you really trust because other people have their own attachments and stuff too. You really want to pick somebody if you want to work with somebody to do work like that. You really want to resonate and use your discernment with people. I also have activations on my YouTube channel with the Arcturians. They're fantastic with removing devices and parasites and nanotechnology and attachments and interference and implants. So I have activations that help guide you through that and ask for assistance from the ETs for removal of that. So you can do that, and those are free on YouTube. I would look up like Lily Nova Arcturian healing meditation or implant removal, stuff
Okay.
like that. I also have a chakra series that goes through each chakra individually. So after it is removed, you also want to reflect what allowed that to get there. What trauma or what just kind of reflect. Each of the chakras does something different. So the heart is like love. Maybe you have trust issues or you've been hurt so many times and your heart's closed off and you can't let love in or you're afraid to let love in because you've been hurt so bad. That
Yeah,
could be why.
yeah, because it's blocking the
Yeah.
love from coming in. It's actually they're blocking that for you. You
Mhm.
invited that there to put that block there for you. A lot of people say maybe it's, people put up their walls. It's not that
Mhm.
they have walls put up, it's that they have these parasites stuck on their entry points, and that is it's big to get rid of those. But
Mhm.
you're saying you actually need help to get rid of those. You can't get rid of them yourself.
No, I think you could. I'm just saying if you feel called, you could ask for assistance from
Yeah,
somebody or
yeah.
do a meditation. And somebody put in the chat asking your higher self, calling your higher self and ask for the same treatment, or from Kali Ma in Anubis. Those are actually fantastic. I work with Kali Ma. She's great at getting rid of entities and attachments too. So you can just ask from spiritual guides. Ask your spiritual guides for assistance too. I also, I just wanted to offer, I do have free meditations that help guide through it on YouTube also.
Yeah, you
But
do
yeah,
have a great channel that I recommend everybody go and subscribe to. It's a fascinating channel, it really is.
thank you. I appreciate that. And then afterwards, yeah, there's going to be a hole whenever that leaves, and you're going to want to continue maintenance and nurturing and healing that energy center or just your energy in general. So I would continue just focusing on that, doing self-care while you're in the bubble bath. Maybe, send your heart love or visualize light coming in and healing and you just do some self-care and some maintenance afterwards. You can also do some chakra meditations.
Now, does this work the opposite way too? If you were to meditate and focus on all of the negative things in your life, would that empower the uh the parasites?
Um, it depends on what your intention is. You know what I mean? Like you can, if you want to maybe,
Like self-wallowing, so to speak.
yeah, I mean, you're probably going to cultivate that energy if
Yeah.
you focus on it too much. But, you can reflect on it if you're doing it with the intention of reflecting to become aware and then let it go. releasing it so that
Mhm.
it's not, you can even do an exercise. I really like doing this. If there's something like behavior wise or like a pattern wise that has been affecting me for a while or that I want to, get rid of or get out of a certain loop, you may think about it, reflect on it, and then you can do a visualization and ask your guides or the angels to take it from you and take the burden from you. So you can like visualize yourself giving it to your guides. So that's a way that you can get assistance with that. So then you'd be thinking about it, but you're not focusing on it and cultivating more of it. You're thinking about it, reflecting, and then giving it away.
Yeah, my wife always tells me, it's not just that sort of stuff either. It's, you have to pay real close attention to your gut bacteria.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's something about the things that you eat and trying to maintain a healthy gut bacteria. It's very important to your entire well-being and everything else. So
It's connected to your brain. I'm actually a nutritionist before this. I went to school for dietetics. So your gut is your second brain.
yeah, yeah. That's as uh, my wife and I always used to discuss how where does consciousness come from, this, that, and other thing. And I told her that consciousness is really our gut bacteria.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like our
Mhm.
gut bacteria is controlling everything that's going on. That's truly our consciousness.
Yeah, and most of your serotonin, which is like the happy chemical, is made in your gut. So if you don't have a healthy gut and you can't properly make serotonin, like you can struggle with depression, anxiety, all sorts, even like sugar cravings and stuff like that. Like the bad bacteria eat off of, the sugar and chemicals and stuff like that. They thrive off of that. So a healthy diet is really essential.
Let me ask you about CBD or marijuana. Do
Mhm.
you do you think that that's a good thing for a positive thing for the people, or do we need to put CBD and marijuana away?
I mean, I take CBD. I do take CBD oil. It's helped a lot. I had a seizure a couple years back, and it helped. It helped a lot with that, and it helped with the anxiety that I started getting after having that seizure. It helps me with sleep too. So I take CBD. With marijuana, I don't really see a problem with it. I partake sometimes. I don't go overboard. Um, but I think it kind of depends on your relationship with it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, if it's something that you, like, need every day, but it could also be, like, medicinal for you, so I think it really depends on the circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the circumstance. If you can
Okay.
go without it, I think, it's better to do it naturally, of course, or at least take breaks, but yeah, the key
But
yeah,
that's not gonna set you back or put you in a obviously, people can smoke marijuana and get real negative and stay in a negative place while they're on it,
Mhm,
but the whole
mhm.
purpose is, everything with positivity and high vibration, right?
Yeah, and then somebody, Colt put the key is to not be codependent. That's a great point too. Have to just be mindful of addictive tendencies.
Yeah.
But I think it could be a really good. It is a great medicine when used in the right way
Okay.
and in moderation.
I wanna talk to you briefly about the ability to take your parasites and bring them with you into the light and help them evolve into a better
Mhm,
being. I hear that that's possible, that you don't they're it's up to them as well whether they want to ascend with us or not, and
mhm.
it's possible that you have a parasite that you could actually help evolve into a positive higher being. Is that true?
Yeah. So what I like to say whenever I'm dealing with these sort of things and like attachments or, negative entities and all that, I'll call in the ascended masters, the angels, the archangels, my star family, and all that. I call everybody in. And then I ask, especially Yeshua, Jesus, uh, I ask this attachment or entity or parasite or whatever you want to call it, I ask it to be escorted back to its perfect place or the light. I say, or be returned to the light, wherever its perfect place is. So if it wants to ascend, it can go up. If it wants to be transmuted into light, it can go up. If it wants to stay the route that it's going, it can do that somewhere else, just not around me. So
Yeah,
that's kind of the
yeah.
verbiage that I like to use and leave it up to the divine plan. and yeah, whatever it wants to do. So I ask it to be escorted to its perfect place or returned back to the light.
Where do you think its purpose place would be?
Um, I mean, that could be in another dimension, that if it's not ready to ascend, that could be in a whole other, just a whole other dimension where whatever it's doing, it can be in that vibrational state and stay in that vibrational state if it doesn't want to raise its frequency. I don't know what that place would look like, but I think that could be an option. Or it can be transmuted and returned to the light and choose to ascend up.
Yeah.
Healed. A lot of it, they're saying also a lot of it is healing. So a lot of these like dark entities, even with like ghosts and stuff, they may
Uh-huh.
not even necessarily be evil, but they're hurt. So they're lashing out. So then you can also ask for healing for it, is what's coming through right now, the healing. Really focusing on the healing aspect. You know, whenever we get hurt, especially like people who aren't as far along on their personal development, I'm sure you know people who project. They've been hurt and they project that onto other people and take it out on other people. It's not necessarily because they're a bad person, it's because they're hurt and they have unhealed trauma.
Yeah, so you mentioned ghosts.
Mhm.
Does that mean that you believe that uh, that humans who pass can still haunt the living?
I have seen some ghosts with my third eye. I'm not like a big ghost person, but I have felt them around before. I have talked to a few of them before. I was at this haunted hotel, and normally I don't do this. Like I'm like I'll talk to the aliens all day, but I don't want to talk to ghosts because it kind of like freaks me out a little bit, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And plus, you never know what you're gonna get, you know. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna tune in and see, kind of open myself up to see what's going on here. And this place was in the 1910s. It was made in the 1910s, and it was like a hotel with Al Capone was there, Teddy Roosevelt was there, Bonnie and Clyde was there, and on the top floor was a brothel. I immediately saw a kid who looked probably about like 7 or 8 in suspenders from like the 1910s who had died in the area. I saw 2 ladies of the night probably worked at the brothel who were murdered, um, and a couple other things. And they were like hanging around there. And I would like to help, set the intention to help them move on so that they are not kind of stuck in that space. But so I have seen that, and even my neighbor, like walking up the stairwell. I live in these condos. I felt a presence as I was walking up, and I knew it was like a family member or somebody attached to my neighbor, and they were basically asking me for help, and they asked for me to help move them over to the other side because they were stuck. So I did that for them.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question. Sorry, I just kind of went on a little rant.
No, that's all right. So curious, is it possible that these parasites could still be attached to their ghostly energies?
Parasites being attached to, I mean, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I think anything is really possible.
Yeah, so
And
you, you
the whole parasite thing, is a little bit, like, newer to me over this past year.
uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta kinda wonder if maybe that's what's keeping them from passing on is
Oh,
the parasite attachments that aren't letting go of
feeding,
them,
right, feeding onto that
because
energy.
they're still ghosts with all this negativity and
Mhm.
trauma and hurt that the parasite's still feeding on, and so the parasite's not letting them go. That's interesting to look at.
Yeah, that's a really great point, and I'd like to mention oh my gosh, the hotel, this was in, Medicine Park, Oklahoma, is the where I'm talking about. It's an
Uh-huh,
old, old, old little small town. These beings, these ghosts, they showed me. I said, "Is there anything that you wanna show me? Is there anything that you wanna tell me?" And they showed me deep underground, there was, like, this dark portal and a lot of dark energy that was keeping them stuck there. So I could see that potentially being like, parasitic in nature too, like this dark, whatever this dark energy was that was like feeding off of them and keeping them stuck there. So the next day, it was the summer solstice. With a friend, we went to like this energy vortex right by Medicine Park, and we did like a whole clearing of all the land and hopefully shut that dark portal down and hopefully freed some of those trapped souls.
Yeah. Hopefully it worked. Hopefully it worked. So let's talk a little bit about. I s- I really want to go back to the other topic we were on just before that about the multiple timelines.
Mhm.
Now, when a perfect example of this is what happened with Trump and Butler, PA.
Mm.
How he turned his head and it went ching, through the ear, and in another reality somewhere he didn't turn his head,
Mm.
and he was taken out.
Right.
And that that incident proved to me that we were on the good timeline, honestly. What did you think of that? Did you think of that as that was a timeline split there, obviously? I mean, that had to have been something. I mean, that's just that's such a small incident that changes so much.
Right. Yeah, that changed everything.
It
That was a
did.
very pivotal moment. And whether you like him or not, he's a conduit of change, and nobody deserves to be taken out like that anyway. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could definitely tell that it was divinely. There were so many signs about it. Divinely, he was kept safe. The flags above his head had gotten tangled up before that, and they looked like an angel.
Yeah, I did
Did you
see
see
that.
that?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
And it missed him just at the last second. He turned his head, barely, 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 barely missed him. But also, I was in Mount Shasta. I went to Mount Shasta the next day, and there was a huge meeting. I saw ships going into that mountain. I remote viewed it and saw, that there was a huge like intergalactic, interplanetary meeting happening in the mountain. And I saw, all these different races of beings sitting around these tables having a meetings. And so I asked them, I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We are assessing the consciousness of the planet and assessing the frequency of the planet due to what happened with Trump, the whole assassination attempt." And then the next morning I woke up and they said, "Congratulations, like we did it. We're on, this is the highest timeline. Like we're on the higher timeline because of that pivotal moment and how it was affecting the collective."
Yeah, I think that woke a lot of people up too. I mean, it was that was insane, really. I mean,
Yeah, and the corruption, I mean, it's pretty obvious.
yeah. We'll talk about that on the next show coming up. Uh, it is just amazing to be alive at this time, and this period of human existence is quite special, is it not?
Yeah, nothing like this has ever been done before, I don't think.
I mean, you get old, you're actually pretty young, so you probably don't remember, running around with the neighbor, out in the neighborhood, in the
Oh, I
80s.
do. I do. Not in
Yeah,
the '80s,
I mean, in the
'90s.
80s, for like when I mean, literally, they had to remind our parents at 10 o'clock every night that they had kids and that they should probably see if they're in the house or not. Like where are your kids? Are they home?
Mhm.
And to go from a kid where we had no technology, we didn't even have computers. We had the dial rotary phones and everything else, to go into now there's UFOs flying around with time travel technology and everything else. This
Yeah,
is crazy that the leaps that we've taken in just my timeline.
yeah,
Obviously your timeline's going to see massive changes as well. But,
yeah.
I mean, I still don't I don't think that it's gonna be as massive as somebody who's a Gen Xer, say, or, somebody that was born in the '70s.
Hmm.
What do you think? Do you think that there's so much more yet to learn? Or do you think that, you know, um, interstellar life and, a galactic federation and, all different kinds of beings and all this technology, do you think that's all that we are gonna learn, or do you think that there's so much more after that?
There's definitely much more after that. But I think we're lucky, fortunate that we are going like we're having the most pivotal, like this is the most pivotal time ever right now out of the history. There's going to be a lot coming to light over the next like decade. The ETs have really said like 2030s is really, really well. 2025 is basically that's so much is going to come out in 2025. It's going to be insane. In this past July was a very pivotal, timeline moment, and then 2030s is going to be huge. But yeah, there's so much to come after that. I've had like a download and vision of my next lifetime. I'm going to be incarnating on Earth again after this, and I
When
saw my
when?
I don't know when exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know when, but I know I'm going to be incarnating on Earth again, and I was told to help continue building the new Earth. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on Earth, but we're at like the precipice of the turning point in this lifetime. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of technology coming out. There's a lot. All the old systems need to collapse, so I think we'll get a pretty good amount. We're the system busters right now.
Yeah.
Busting the old systems, and then we're going to have to build all of these new systems that work.
Do you think there's gonna be a solar flash event?
I think there's already a ton of solar flash events that are happening right now. I think, and I was just tuning into this yesterday, and the ET showed me like it's not necessarily going to be like one specific event. It's going to be they showed me like a vision of solar flare, big solar flare, solar flare,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of like going like that. And if you have the I don't know what app it is, but I know people who have it on their app where they get notifications each time there's like a solar flare, and we've been getting hit like crazy over the past couple of months.
Yeah, the sun's, really starting to heat up. Have you noticed it change color too? It used to be
More
yellow, now
white.
it's more of a white. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
A
it
lot of
is.
people don't know that. Like, I remember, obviously we're told as kids not to look at the sun, but we all did, right? Like we looked
Yeah.
at it. I remember seeing a yellow sun. Now it's not yellow anymore. I can promise you.
Yeah.
It's definitely more of a white, and that's I hear that that has so much to do with everything that's going on because the protons coming from the solar flashes and everything else are interdimensional, and that's
Mhm.
how we could start to see interdimensional. Like with every solar flash, we're going to get more and more awake, and a lot of
Yeah.
people suggest. Have you heard of this demon face syndrome?
I'm not sure, like seeing
Yeah,
them?
yeah,
Yeah, a little bit. And I mean, I could definitely see that people just start the veils thinning and our DNA is being activated from our star families, from our intentions, from the solar energies and the frequencies hitting Earth right now. So then your third eye is starting to activate and open. So you're starting to see through the illusion and also seeing into these other dimensions. So yeah, I could definitely see that. Have you seen the movie They Live? Or have
you're
you heard
talking
of it?
about the old one with the glasses, with the
Yeah.
Rowdy Piper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what that
yeah, yeah,
reminds me of. Yeah,
yeah.
you put on the glasses and you can see, like, there's actually, like, entities. I do believe there are entities cloaked too at times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely believe that there's cloak technology out there. That's,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people are gonna start seeing this more and more. Not just
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of the people that are on the planet aren't even real. I don't think a lot of it are NPCs. What do you think of that suggestion that, that a
That's
lot a lot of
interesting.
a lot of what's going on, like, isn't even real?
Yeah.
It's all computer programmed.
Yeah, I mean, well, it really is a program. There's just so much to it because, like, it is kind of like the Matrix. And I've actually felt sensations. I started feeling it like near the end coming back from Shasta recently. Like the back of my neck being plugged in, being unplugged from the matrix, from this program. So the ETs have shown me that this 3D matrix is basically a program, an illusion running over a superimposed on top of like a beautiful 5D reality that's
Uh-huh.
more real, more colorful. and there's like this program running over top of it, and it's quantum, so it's hard to kind of explain, but that's really the best way to put it, is kind of like a literally like a program, like a big computer.
Yeah, I'm so excited about where we're going as a society, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's not derailed, I suppose, with a nuclear event or anything like that. Do you have anything in your remote viewing that suggests that there's going to be a nuclear event?
Uh, well, I got some messages a couple of years ago. I think it was 2023, whenever this whole thing with Russia and Ukraine first started,
Uh-huh.
and that they said that they would not allow nukes. They would not allow that to happen. So I think that still stands unless something changed. But I have no worries about it. Honestly, they've shown me that, like, and there's also our ET counterparts in us in positive programs. Like, we're fighting this battle not just from our reality right here, like me and you sitting here. We also have our ET counterparts, other versions of ourselves, versions of us from the future, all working together on this from all different angles, which is like pretty mind-boggling, but that's what's going on. And they are many steps ahead of what's going on. It's
Yeah.
just playing out, and it has to get as bad as it needs to for people to wake up.
Yeah, it's amazing to me to think that time is just a three-dimensional thing. Like once we ascend, there'll no longer be time. It's kind of everything at once, right?
Yeah, that's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Right. Like
But
we can't fathom it because we
yeah,
only have three-dimensional brains. We can't even
yeah,
understand what that's like.
right. Yeah, the time is different out there
Yeah,
than
I mean,
how it is here, for sure.
like, yeah, we'll never be able to understand it. We're never gonna be able to do it as long as we're 3D beings. It's impossible. Literally is impossible to
Yeah.
understand what it's like
But,
without time. Yeah.
right, and then there's this movie, The Arrival, I think it is, with, what's her name? She's like red hair. The Arrival, it's like the ETs come down and in these ships, and she begins to learn their language. And as she learns their language, she starts to have like see the past, present, and future all at once. That's
Yeah,
a really good movie to watch.
I remember watching that movie. They, like, bring him in and into, like, a room or something, and they could see him through the glass, and they're
Yeah,
throwing their little claws or whatever they have, tentacles up
yeah,
on the glass and stuff, spelling out different things.
yeah,
It
yeah.
looks
Amy
so
Adams. Amy Adams was her name.
okay.
Yeah,
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 I don't know any of these actors or actresses. Just don't pay attention to it. And it's right while we were talking just a little bit ago, I took a major download in you could feel it in your ear when your ear starts ringing like that. Do you
yeah.
believe that that's what's happening when your ears are ringing? You're taking a download?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I
I just
first,
took a major one, whichever whatever was happening. I just took a
yeah.
major one right there.
Well, what I noticed whenever I first started seeing these UFOs and being contacted by them in the star beings, developing a communication with them in relationship, that's part of how I could tell that they were around. My ears would start ringing.
Yeah, and Anna Smith says here, so we're not real?
No, we are real, but it's like this reality that we are in is more of like it's like a construct. We are real souls. We are real beings. We have real consciousness, but it's in kind of like this program that's very limiting. So what they showed me, um, the visual that they've shown me is picture like a pitch black room and it's all dark, and that could be like Earth and how chaotic and dark it is,
Mhm.
and then that's the 3D matrix, okay? And then they showed me that through the work that we're doing and the energies from the sun and from our star family and all of that, poking holes in this darkness and allowing light in. And then that's going to be like the real, like better reality, if that makes sense. So that's basically
Mhm.
what we're doing. We're kind of poking holes and dissolving this limited kind of simulation matrix around us to uh, unveil a paradise, if that makes sense. But we are real beings. We have real souls.
Yeah, and our light is phenomenal, really. We have
Yeah.
phenomenal light.
We are the
We
light.
We have to remember that. Yeah. Okay, so if anybody has questions for Lily Nova, now is the time, guys. Go ahead and post your questions. Lily, before we start, why don't you tell everybody where to find you? And I do believe you have something coming up at Sedona, or do you want to go ahead and plug what you got going on as far
Yeah.
as appearances?
Yeah. So I'll be at Tony Rodriguez conference, the Sedona Odyssey, October 18th, 17th, and 18th, or is it 18th and 19th in Sedona, Arizona. I've got it on my website at lilynovacontact.com if you go to the events. So I've got upcoming events. I do have a Sedona spiritual transformation retreat coming up in April 2025 also. So I love doing these transformational retreats and energy vortex tours. We experience some really amazing things at those. So I've got some of those coming up. And also my YouTube channel, Lily Nova Starseed. I post on YouTube a lot. I've got a lot of live. So if you go to the live tab, you'll see my live activations going over all these different topics, meditations, all that. And I also have a book that just came out a few months ago, called Contact by Lily Nova. And that's you can get that on Amazon. So that goes over my contact journey. It's got a lot of pictures of the beings and messages from the beings that I've communicated with, and also tips for how you can activate superhuman abilities, your DNA, and make contact with your star family.
All right, and there's the Odyssey thing there. It says October 18th and 19th in Sedona. And real quick before we get onto these questions, do you think is Sedona a big deal because of the ley lines?
Yeah, and there's these energy vortexes there. There's like 6 big ones and probably a bunch of other ones around. So Sedona is like an amplifier of energy. It can amplify healing. The veil is very thin there. You can have interdimensional experiences. A lot of ships, a lot of paranormal activity there. And also Thunder Mountain is connected to Mount Shasta in Northern California. So it's a very, very powerful place for you to experience all sorts of transformation and fantastic things. Sky watches, UFOs, Sasquatch, inner earth beings, like you name it. Like Sedona's got a lot going on.
All right.
And it really does, you can have these experiences anywhere really, but being in a high energetic place with like the ley lines and energy vortexes like Sedona, for example, it really amplifies it like 1,000-fold.
All right. I'm sorry, my cat is back messing with me again.
We love the kitties.
I really hope my biggest fear when he's messing around underneath the desk is that he's going to step on the power bar button and shut everything down.
Oh no.
So if I all of a sudden go black, it's the cat over here. So just so we know. Okay, so let's get to some questions here. Thank you so much for sharing what's coming up. Oh, one more thing about the ley lines. Is it possible that these vortexes are created by the an arc, that like these are the arc locations where the ley lines meet?
I could see potentially being I don't think that would necessarily that would be a requirement to have an arc there, but I could see how there would be a correlation with that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting to think about.
Mhm.
Okay. Heather says, is she communicating with aliens while meditating?
Yeah, so it happens often during meditation, but it also can happen, anytime, like while I'm on a walk or while I'm in the bath or just cleaning the house. But it's easier to do that whenever, you kind of clear your mind a bit during meditation. So yes, a lot of it's during meditation and then sometimes just random as well.
All right. Blue Chicken says, can mirrors repel these things? Mirrors inherently reflect things back, I'm thinking. He's talking about the parasites.
So mirrors are a portal, and so you'd actually want to, I don't know if it could repel that. Maybe if you set that intention to repel it. But it could also, you might want to just be mindful about mirrors, because if you're somebody who goes in front of the mirror and like, thinks a lot of like negative thoughts, you can accidentally allow things into to come through the mirror, like negative things.
Do you
You just
think
want
it's
to be
best
mindful.
to a lot of people have bathroom mirrors and mirrors, like, hanging up in their bedroom door and stuff. Do you think it's best to put some kind of curtain over the mirror and, keep the curtain closed if you're not using it?
Well, what I like to do is I just set the intention. Like I don't do that. You don't have to do all that.
Uh-huh.
I'm aware that it can be used as a portal, and I just kind of visualize some protection up and say nothing is allowed through that mirror. Just because if you are aware of it, then you can stop it with your intention and just kind of like close that off. Like nothing negative can come through that.
I have a
Similar with TVs too. Apparently they can come through TVs. I've had people who have seen that through, it's called like black box technology, I think.
uh-huh.
So you just set that intention and say, I do not consent to anything coming through my TV or anything coming through my mirror. And then you should be fine.
Alright. So TVs aren't, so I mean, if it's off, that's okay, right? Like, it's not gonna.
Uh, I would just do it, just state it once and set that intention and say, I do not consent for anything to come through. And then you should be good, whether it's on or off.
Okay. I'm sorry. My cat's got me so flustered. I don't know.
You're fine. Hi, kitty.
What does she recommend to establish good gut bacteria?
Taking probiotics. So you can take like supplements. You can also look up foods that are high in like prebiotics and probiotics. Eating more, fresh fruits, fruits and vegetables, things like that. Things with the least amount of ingredients. So you look at the ingredient list of a product. If it's got an ingredient list this long and there's a bunch of stuff you can't pronounce, like just don't get that, or eat those types of things as less as possible.
Okay. Mike Rotunda says, "Are we somewhere else controlling this Earth uh,
Um,
consciousness?" I guess maybe is what he's saying there.
so
That's a good question.
yeah, it is. It is a good question. So so there are other versions of us. I know there are some of us that are in, or maybe all of us that are in, actually our ET versions are in sleeping pods while we come down here. But I have met a version of me from the future that is in a different, that I've actually seen their ship come down to Earth. So I wouldn't say they're like controlling the consciousness, but we are connected through consciousness, and they are, this other version of me is helping guide me to do my work that I need to do on Earth, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't say like necessarily controlling, but helping to guide and manipulate. Yeah.
All right. When you're at places like Mount Shasta, got my own question here. When you're at places like Mount Shasta, I mean, obviously, I was watching one of your videos where you went to
Mhm.
Mount Shasta and you posted some amazing stuff. Like, there's like a giant,
Yeah.
you could see in the rocks, and then there's obviously this cloud over the mountain that looks like a massive UFO mothership. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal. Do you think that we're seeing these things because in the fifth dimension, obviously that those are all over the place, and
Mhm.
we can't see it because we're in the third dimension?
Yeah, and as you practice, oftentimes, they cloak themselves in clouds too. Um, so you can keep an eye out for that. But yeah, like it's not safe for them to always be popping out like in our dimension. They can lower their frequency and become visible in our dimension, but then you'll probably see fighter jets coming after them a lot of the time. So they're kind of cloaked in these other dimensions, but you can actually train yourself, and as you raise your frequency, you can start to see these things. So often I'll see them, just sitting, today and yesterday, I've seen tons of ships just stationed right outside my house, UFOs. So they're all around. They've shown me that they're all around in the skies. They're just in another dimension, so we can't see them. But you can train yourself to see them, or look for cloaked clouds. That's often a good sign of them. And even I wanted to add, I went to the Grand Tetons after Mount Shasta on that same trip. I was gone for like 33 days. And I saw like a crystalline, higher vibrational, higher dimensional city over this mountain. I just saw it for like a few seconds, but I got to kind of like see into this higher dimension. So there's all kinds of stuff going on around us in these higher dimensions. Yes.
All right. Ann Smith says, is it something important going to happen in our lifetime? Will we be able to break off the matrix? What's for the us here in the States after the elections? And I think we're going to get into this a little bit more in the show we have coming up, just to let everybody know. I believe that is going to be in October. And if you guys are listening, October 8th, Lily Nova will be back. We will talk a little bit more about the election stuff process coming up. But do you have a quick answer for her?
Yeah, I mean, everything. This is like the most important lifetime, I feel like, because so much is changing. We are bringing down the 3D matrix right now, like, and it's a process, and a lot of disclosure needs to happen. A lot of exposing corruption is going to be happening, especially over the next year. And the ETs gave me a lot of messages about things in our highest timeline that are going to be exposed after the election. And I can go into that more in detail, but it's a lot of really incredible, mind-boggling things, like having to do with like the trafficking, the corruption in politics, specific individuals going down, specific really big figures that have been lying to the public for years, for decades, and doing horrible crimes are going to be exposed. And these systems are going to break down so that we can create new systems.
Yeah, we just had Courtney Brown on Tuesday, and he said that in the order in which things are going to happen, it's first we're going to hear about JFK, then we're going to get the truth about 9/11, then we're going to get the truth about UFO UAPs. It has to be in that order. What would you think of that?
I agree 100%. So one of the first things that they showed me whenever I asked about that was they showed me RFK Jr. and they said the JFK files are going to be released, and it's going to shock and rock the world, the entire planet. It's going to change everything. 3-letter agencies will now be under scrutiny, and they're going to be they're going to be breaking down, basically exposed. So JFK's the release of that information and who is behind that is going to be a really, really big deal. And I agree. We have to, the UFO stuff and aliens and all of that has to come out after we expose the corruption here. Like, it's already starting to come out, but I agree with what Courtney Brown said, and that's exactly what I'm feeling and getting to, that it's going to happen, that the aliens more openly are going to happen after this. We have to get this done first, because we have to have more peace on the planet, and we have to get rid of the corrupt, 3-letter agencies and all of that for it to even be safe for us to have peaceful, open contact.
Now, where do you think Lou Elizondo and all these guys fall into the whole disclosure thing? I tend to think that just the fact that they came out right away, Lou Elizondo come out right away, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever, and they changed once they changed the keyword from UFO to UAP to control the search results, I knew that something was very fishy about everything going on there. It seems like there's going to actually be 2 types of disclosure. One is going to be the real disclosure, and another one is going to be the deep state predator class, like we like to call them, with their own kind of disclosure to try to circumvent the real disclosure that's happening. What do you think about any of that?
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, like, discernment is huge and key right now. Go with your gut feeling. Like, if you get a bad feeling about those people, especially if they're promoting them on the news and media and all that all the time, that's, there's a lot of psyops, psychological warfare going on. So if there's anything that brings in like a fear narrative, that's a good indication that it is being run by the negative agenda, and it's not the whole truth.
All right. Ann Magic says, when we meditate, can we leave the matrix temporarily?
Yeah. Yeah. You get into that higher state of consciousness, of course.
All right. Ann Smith has another question. She's got quite a few here coming up. Is it something?
We already got that one.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Let's do this one then. She says, so how can we be real if we are players of this matrix? Still not quite clear on this. Doesn't make sense.
Mm. So we are okay. So the matrix can be kind of like an illusion. It's a program that a lot of people are running on. Okay. A lot of people are running on this program,
Yeah.
eat, sleep, work a 9 to 5, uh,
Yeah.
eat this junk food that keeps you sick, go home, watch TV all day, all night. And it's just this repeatable program. And then you have like the entities and parasites, feeding off of your negative energy. And then the big pharma making money off of your sickness and all the medicines and all that stuff. That's just like a terrible slave program, essentially. So us being awakened and becoming aware of it, then we're kind of like running outside of the matrix. We're not running on that program, but we're implanted within the matrix to help awaken everybody else from their sleep and break out of it. Hopefully that makes sense. So we are real players and we are aware of it, and we have our light, our soul light, and we are here to help shift and wake up the rest of humanity.
Yeah, I always and I hate to always say this, but my wife's my best friend. I talk to her all the time about everything, and I always tell her, the reason why we know these things now is because a lot of our neighbors and friends and everybody else who's still kind of trapped in the matrix that doesn't really see quite what's going on,
Mhm.
they're going to be completely shocked
Yeah.
when everything comes out, and it's our job to try to stay calm, help them through it. Make sure that not only do we have enough food for ourselves and our household to get through what's coming, but also to help feed the neighbors and to try to be ready and be I guess kind of like an elder of the community, so to speak, like the wise one in the community, like, okay, calm down, everything's okay. This
Yeah.
is all part of where we're going and it's all good, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We're like the way showers. Uh so we're like ahead of the curve here. And that is part of the ET messages that we discussed in my recent videos on like messages from the Federation about what was coming. They said to be compassionate and yes, show love for your fellow humans because they've basically been put under a spell, and all of these things are trying to keep them down and keep them asleep. But as they wake up, they're probably some of them might kind of freak out, or they're gonna have a hard time processing it. So we need to be empathetic and we need to be supportive and help show people, help lead the way.
Yeah, Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Podcast. How you doing, Aunt Cisco? Says that draggers, you're gonna have to drag them out into the light. LOL. We're the draggers, right? We're the ones that are gonna have to pull them, kicking and screaming into the light, I suppose. That's my aunt, by the way, Cisco
Nice.
from Journey Through the Gate Paranormal Podcast. So let's see. Anna Smith has another one here. Is our future as humanity connected with these elections? You should win. Who should win so we are on the right track? Can Mr. T, if he wins, turn everything around for good?
Yeah, so they've shown me that Mr. T is on the side of the light, and he is working with positive, with the Alliance, positive extraterrestrials, and he's a part of the White Hats. The White Hats. He's on the good side. He's a conduit of change. His sole purpose is that he's here to shake things up and help break down the old system. So our highest timeline, yes, would be with Trump. He's not a normal politician like all of the other politicians who have been groomed for this role since basically birth and who have been born into these families. He's a businessman. He can help with the economy, and he's going to help bring down the corruption with assistance from RFK Jr. RFK Jr. is going to play a huge role, especially in the dismantling of the three-letter agencies and the release of the JFK files and all of that. Yeah. So that would be our highest timeline. Yes.
All right. I mean, that's awesome. Steve Williams says, what part of me is in a cosmic jail?
I don't know if I understand the question. Steve, that's my friend. I know Steve.
Okay, so get up with her on her channel, buddy, or unless you want to, if you can quickly We're running out of time, so you have to be quick with the try to
He might be
rephrase
joking
that
around.
question.
He
Yeah.
might be
Okay.
joking around, maybe.
Dr. Strangelove says, "What's her tattoo means on your right arm?"
So this is a Triskelion. It's like a portal, but it's also a really ancient symbol. Mind, body, spirit. There's tons of meanings. It's a lot of it's depicted a lot in like ancient Celtic, but really all over the planet. And I got it with while in Sedona last year with my other two friends. So there were three of us, and so we each three got this tattoo.
Laura Moss says, "Hello." I don't know. I'm gonna try to look back whether she asked a question or not that maybe I had missed. I apologize if I did. Sometimes it goes really fast and I miss them. So if you want, go ahead and write it down. Here, I'll post this.
Hi,
It's
Laura.
hard. It's hard for me to see anyone as an NPC. Maybe NPC in the whole Disclosure Galactic battle scene, but everyone is divine. They are just living out their own journeys. What would you say to that comment there? Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, like, the NPC thing is a little I'm not 100%, like, sure about that. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. So I'd have to, like, tune a little bit more. But I agree that, like, everybody is on their own journey, but I could see how, some people are just kind of living on autopilot because maybe their souls are kind of, like, hanging outside of their body or, due to like parasites or other things that are going on. So they're just kind of like on autopilot going on this program. Um, I don't know if there'd really be like anybody who isn't soulless 100% on planet who's walking around. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you think that any of this has to do with bloodlines?
Oh yeah, bloodlines is important.
Now, why would that matter in a three-dimensional plane? I get it. You have like, we have
Mhm,
obviously people have heard of the bloodlines of Cain,
mhm,
and then people have heard that Jesus,
mhm.
really had kids, and there's a whole bloodline there.
Yep.
Is it a battle of bloodlines?
That seems to be a big part of it. Yeah. You've got like these Illuminati bloodlines. And then you've got the Mary Magdalene bloodlines, bloodlines of the pharaohs. These bloodlines, so it's all about the DNA and
Yeah.
the potential within your bloodline, the gifts and wisdom that you carry through your DNA, through your bloodline. So like Jesus, and I do believe he was, I mean, he wasn't like definitely, he was definitely a star seed. And he also did a lot of training in like Egypt and all of these things, training in ways of mysticism and alchemy and consciousness and meditation and kundalini and all of these other things. But I believe he also had extraterrestrial genetics and was a star seed. So he had extra kind of extra DNA that had abilities that gifts that he could activate. He had the potential there.
So do you think that, like, obviously you have Ancestry DNA and there's another company, I forget, where the whole board just resigned or something, but BlackRock had bought Ancestry DNA, so they had access to all of their records. Could they be going through the DNA databases of things like Ancestry DNA and coming up with target lists?
Yeah. Yeah, they could. And my mom got me that for as a Christmas gift, so they got my DNA. But I think they already knew about me because I know I've been taken into the programs. But they do target certain individuals, and I've heard like never give blood, um, because they can, test that, and if they see certain potentials then they could try to take you or abduct you or target you to keep your frequency low because they know how powerful you are. Yeah, that's absolutely. And isn't that weird that BlackRock owns Ancestry?
Yeah,
Is that what you
yeah,
just said? That
yeah,
they owned it?
yeah. They just bought it actually. I think like a year ago or something.
Great.
BlackRock bought it, and I know BlackRock is not good.
Mm-mm. Yeah, they're bad.
I mean, they're literally giving Ukraine crap because Ukraine is selling BlackRock all of this land, but they're burying their soldiers on it. And BlackRock's like, "Can you please stop burying your soldiers on our land?"
Wow. And also with that, the cloning is huge. So they'll take your DNA. Our DNA is like that's gold. So they'll take your DNA and they'll make clones of you, and then they'll put you to fight in these like, battles and
Yeah.
wars. And they'll train you to be like assassins or super soldiers. That was a whole other thing that blew my mind whenever I started becoming aware of like the secret space programs and what Tony Rodriguez.
Uh-huh.
I've been taken into those programs too. And I've actually gotten some memories back, not as much as Tony, but they literally they train you to be they mind control you and train you to be like these super assassins.
Yeah, I was saving this for when I had Tony on, but I'll go ahead and tell you. One of the dreams, or I guess recollections, or whatever you want to call it, was that I was being sent. I was the second in charge of this mission we were going on, and I was told that don't worry if we fail, because if we fail, we have this don't stress about it too much, because they have this time weapon that they'll be able to use that will immediately put us back like 10 more minutes or something before, and then we could try again. Do you
Yeah, I've
think that
had
that's
dreams like that.
possible?
Yeah, I've had dreams like that where I'm on a mission and then it was on like it felt like on the positive side. Um where yeah, I was on this mission and basically we got screwed, killed by the bad guys, had to go back and things were a little bit different. Like in one timeline, I was really good friends with one of my, members on the crew or whatever. And then in the other timeline, we weren't as good of friends. So like there were like subtle changes too. But going back 10 minutes, I could see how they could do that also.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me that like
Mm.
I literally I woke up, it was like the middle of the night, and I like immediately like ran over to my phone and was messaging Tony like, this is what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta write that stuff down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he
Yeah.
said. He said you gotta start taking your journal now that you're open to it, they're just gonna come flooding in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've got a full notebook of just like random like and then you forget sometimes because you'll
yeah, get up
you
and do
forget.
you'll have gotta go to work or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So anyway, it's absolutely insane.
mhm.
Robert Bell here said Trump time traveler question
Yeah.
mark, and I have to say I honestly think Barron has a lot more to do with this than we could ever know. Because have you looked into Barron at all? Have you tried remote viewing Barron?
I haven't, but I have been actually over the past few weeks, I'm like, I know he is and is going to play a very key part.
Yeah,
I haven't tried looking into it yet, but I get a very, very strong feeling about him as well, yeah.
there was literally a book written about him like 200
Yeah,
years ago. I'm
that's insane.
I mean, think about it, the adventures of Baron Trump. I mean, it's, about a time traveler. 200 like what? Like 150, 100, 200 years ago, whatever it was. I mean, it's just fascinating to me. Well,
Mhm.
Lily, that's gonna do it for the show. Why don't you tell everybody where to find you, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, certainly. So my website is lilynovacontact.com. You can find me on there, contact me through there. I also have a ton of like workshops and sessions and DNA activations and healing sessions, all that on there. You can also find me on Lily Nova Starseed on YouTube. I'm very active on YouTube. I go live every other Sunday. So if you want to look at my previous lives where I recently showed a bunch of footage of ships and everything from Mount Shasta and my travels, you got to click the live tab though, or scroll down a little bit because it won't
Yeah.
be, up whenever you do live streams. So just be
I
mindful of
had
that.
just had the same issue with everybody asking me, like, "Why can't I find your videos?" I was like,
Yeah.
I actually had to make a video to be in the video side of things, telling people, "If you can't find videos, click here," and it tells
Yeah.
them we're a live show. You have to click the live tab to find our stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does matter. So there you go, guys.
Yeah.
I would
It's a
imagine it's that way with a lot of channels. You gotta just don't look at videos. You have to go to live. There's all kinds of different tabs there to find people's different stuff. So Laura says real quickly here, how has knowing about your past lives helped you in this one?
remembering who I am, understanding my mission better. So I've been interconnected with this many lifetimes through ancient Egypt, through Atlantis. Played some big key roles in Atlantis and my connections now. I met Adama in Mount Shasta, who is the head priest in Telos, which is the inner earth city. And he said, I know you from Atlantis. So we were actually friends. So those are like past life connections, but he's still alive because they live a lot longer. and they're another dimensional frequency, and time's not the same there.
Yeah.
So, and then also meeting people in this lifetime, they feel very familiar, and then understanding, where do we know each other? Oh, maybe we were in the Lyran Wars together, or we know each other from the Orion Wars, or we know each other from the programs, or we were best friends in the Pleiades, or Inner Earth, Atlantis, Lemuria. It just makes sense. And you remember, it's like a heartwarming kind of like homecoming whenever you remember those things. And also remembering past lives has helped, because past life trauma that gets carried on and like affects me in this lifetime, becoming aware of what happened and what was so traumatic in that lifetime helps me to fix it and correct it and heal it in this lifetime.
All right. And Laura Moss says she will see you in Sedona.
Yeah.
So pretty awesome. Maybe you'll need to hop on that space ark that's buried underneath there while you're there, and you can evacuate the planet.
We're gonna save this planet, okay, you guys?
Yeah, I saw the space ark there, right? Well, I think either way, a pole shift is coming, right?
I don't think we have to worry about any catastrophe. There may be some sort of like a shift, but I don't think it'll be catastrophic. Yeah, I don't think, because we wouldn't be going through all this work and all of this. Like, why would we even be doing this in the first place if it was just gonna, explode?
All right. Okay. Everybody, that's Lily Nova. Thanks so much for tuning in to Conflict Radio. All of the links she's mentioned are down in the description box below. Make sure you go and subscribe to her YouTube channel. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And as always, guys, it's getting crazy out there. Make sure you stock up on some food and supplies. And as always, think about your neighbors. They're going to need us to help them along through this. Until next time, everybody, batten down the hatches and be safe.